She came to Dubai with dreams of healing others and sending money home. He promised her love wrapped in luxury. But in the glittering towers of this desert city, some promises are designed to destroy. She thought she was caring for a patient. She didn't know she was walking into a trap set by a woman who had perfected the art of revenge. Stay with us, because this isn't just about an affair. This is about power, manipulation, and how far someone will go to protect their golden reputation. Camille Andrea was born on March 15, 1992, in Cebu City, Philippines. The eldest of 4 children raised in a cramped 2-bedroom house where hope lived alongside hardship. Her father, Jose, worked double shifts at a shipping dock, his hands permanently stained with engine oil and salt water. Her mother, Luz, took in laundry from neighboring families, her fingers raw from scrubbing clothes in cold water before dawn. Camille was different from her siblings. While they played in the narrow streets, she studied by candlelight when the electricity was cut. At 12, she was already tutoring younger children in math. At 16, she was working weekends at a local clinic, cleaning floors and organizing medical supplies, fascinated by the nurses who moved with such purpose and dignity. She believed education was escape, not just for her, but for her entire family. She finished nursing school at Cebu Normal University on a scholarship she earned by maintaining perfect grades for 4 years straight. She never missed a class, never complained about the 14-hour study days, never doubted that every sacrifice would be worth it. In 2016, at 24, Camille passed the Philippine Nursing Board exam with flying colors. But in the Philippines, even qualified nurses struggled to earn enough to survive, let alone support a family. So when the opportunity came to work in Dubai, where nurses earned in 1 month what she might make in 6 back home, Camille didn't hesitate. She arrived in Dubai on September 3, 2017, carrying a single suitcase, her nursing credentials, and a promise to her mother that she'd send money home every month. She was professional, dedicated, compassionate. She believed hard work and integrity would be enough. She had no idea that in Dubai's elite circles, those qualities could make you a target. Adam Al-Thani lived in a world where problems were solved with phone calls and desires fulfilled with credit cards. At 45, he owned 3 construction companies, a luxury car dealership, and a portfolio of real estate that stretched from Dubai Marina to Palm Jumeirah. His penthouse in Burj Khalifa wasn't just a home. It was a statement, a fortress of marble and glass that announced his success to anyone who looked up. But Adam had a weakness that no amount of money could fix. He was empty. Beneath the tailored suits and expensive watches lived a man who collected women the way some people collected art, for the temporary thrill of possession, not for lasting beauty. His wife, Soraya, knew about the affairs. The secretary in 2015, the yoga instructor in 2016, the art gallery owner who lasted 3 months before Adam grew bored. Each betrayal chipped away at Soraya's dignity, but she endured because divorce in their social circle meant losing everything. Status, friends, the lifestyle she'd spent 15 years building. Adam wasn't cruel in the obvious ways. He never raised his voice, never left bruises. But his infidelity was consistent, methodical, almost recreational. He'd shower his targets with gifts, attention, promises of a different life, then discard them once the novelty faded. To him, it was harmless. To the women involved, it was devastation disguised as romance. In March 2017, Adam underwent emergency gallbladder surgery at the American Hospital Dubai. The procedure was routine, but his recovery would require weeks of home care. His physician recommended hiring a private nurse, someone skilled, trustworthy, and available for round-the-clock monitoring. That's when Camille Andrea entered his world. Professional, quiet, efficient. She checked his vitals, managed his medications, and maintained the kind of respectful distance that impressed even Soraya. For the first time in years, Adam's caregiver seemed immune to his charm, which, of course, only made him more interested. Soraya Al-Thani had perfected the art of beautiful suffering. At 38, she was still stunning, the kind of woman who made other women check their own reflection when she entered a room. Designer everything, flawless makeup, a smile that never quite reached her eyes. She'd married Adam when she was 23, young enough to believe that love could grow from arrangement, naive enough to think wealth would compensate for loneliness. 15 years later, she understood that her marriage was a business transaction. She provided the perfect wife image, he provided the lifestyle. But the terms of their contract had changed without her consent. Every affair was a public humiliation she had to absorb with grace. Every whispered conversation at charity galas, every sympathetic look from friends who knew but pretended not to see. Soraya had become an expert at damage control, at explaining away Adam's absence from events, at maintaining the facade that their marriage was enviable. But the facade was cracking. The yoga instructor had lasted longer than most, and Soraya had caught them together at their beach house in Jumeirah. Adam's apology was casual, almost bored. "It didn't mean anything," he'd said, adjusting his watch. "You know how I am." That night, Soraya made a decision. She would no longer be reactive. She would be proactive. She contacted a discreet security firm and had surveillance equipment installed throughout their home, including Adam's recovery suite. Not to catch him in the act. She already knew he would stray, but to document it. To have proof she could use when the time was right. She told herself it was about self-preservation. About protecting her reputation before it could be destroyed again. She didn't yet know how far she would go to maintain control. When Camille Andrea arrived to care for Adam, Soraya watched through hidden cameras as her husband began his familiar routine. But this time, Soraya wasn't planning to endure. This time, she was planning to end it. For the first 3 weeks, Camille maintained perfect professional distance. She arrived at 6 a.m. sharp, checked Adam's surgical site, administered medications, monitored his vital signs, and documented everything in precise handwriting. Her interactions were polite but brief. "How is your pain level today, Mr. Al-Thani? Please take your antibiotic with food. I'll adjust your pillows for better circulation." Adam wasn't used to being ignored. Women typically responded to his attention, his compliments, his careful display of wealth and power. But Camille seemed genuinely unimpressed. When he mentioned his car collection, she nodded politely and checked his temperature. When he offered to show her the view from his balcony, she suggested he focus on resting for proper healing. Her indifference intrigued him. Here was a woman who looked at his penthouse with professional assessment rather than awe, who treated his expensive art like furniture, who seemed more concerned with his surgical recovery than his bank account. It was refreshing and, perversely, attractive. The shift began slowly. Adam started asking about her family during medication time. Camille, homesick and isolated in a foreign country, found herself sharing small details. Her youngest sister, Mika, was starting university. Her father Jose's back problems made dock work increasingly difficult. Her mother Luz dreamed of opening a small store. Adam listened with genuine interest, or what seemed like genuine interest. He asked follow-up questions, remembered details from previous conversations. When Camille mentioned Mika needed money for textbooks, Adam casually offered to help. When she politely declined, he respected her boundaries. This wasn't the aggressive pursuit she'd expected from wealthy men. It felt like friendship. Meanwhile, Soraya watched everything through hidden cameras. She saw Adam's calculated charm, recognized the pattern from his previous affairs. But she also saw something different in Camille. A genuine innocence, a lack of calculation that made her seem even more dangerous. Camille wasn't playing a game. She was simply being human. And that humanity was exactly what Adam found irresistible. Dubai was beautiful but lonely. Camille lived in a small apartment in Dera, shared with 3 other Filipino nurses who worked different shifts. Her days off were spent at malls or walking along the beach, watching families and couples while missing her own home with an ache that never fully faded. The isolation made Adam's attention feel like sunlight. Their conversations during his recovery became the highlight of her day. He spoke about travel, about business, about dreams that seemed impossibly large compared to her own small hopes. He made her laugh with stories about his construction workers' antics. He asked about her nursing training with what seemed like genuine respect for her profession. Adam was careful not to rush. He never touched her inappropriately, never made obvious advances. Instead, he created emotional intimacy. He told her about his loneliness in marriage, about feeling like a stranger in his own home. He described Soraya as beautiful but cold, present but unreachable. He painted himself as trapped by expectation and duty. Camille began to see past his wealth to what appeared to be vulnerability. When he spoke about feeling invisible despite his success, she related to feeling small in a city designed for giants. When he mentioned wanting authentic connection, she understood the hunger for someone who saw beyond surface appearances. The breakthrough came during his 4th week of recovery. Adam had a minor complication, nothing serious, but enough to require an overnight observation. Camille stayed with him, monitoring his condition through the night. They talked quietly for hours about childhood dreams, about faith, about the weight of family expectations. That night, for the first time, Adam took her hand. Not romantically, but in gratitude. "Thank you for seeing me," he whispered. "Not the money, not the image. Just me." Camille squeezed back. She thought she was comforting a patient. She didn't know she was entering a trap. Adam's recovery was nearly complete, which meant Camille's employment was ending. The thought of returning to regular hospital shifts, of losing their daily conversations, of going back to the loneliness made her chest tight with unexpected grief. Adam felt it too, or claimed to. 2 days before her official last day, he asked her to stay late to discuss continuing care options. What he really wanted to discuss was continuing their relationship. "I don't want you to leave," he said simply. "Not just as my nurse. I want you in my life." Camille's heart raced. She tried to deny her growing feelings, to maintain professional boundaries, but months of intimate conversation had worn down her defenses. Still, she was practical. "Adam, I'm your employee. You're married. This is impossible." "Nothing is impossible," he replied. "I can take care of you, better than any hospital job ever could. I can set you up in your own apartment, give you a monthly allowance that's twice what you make now. You could send more money home, bring your family to visit Dubai." The offer was intoxicating. Financial security beyond her dreams, the ability to truly help her family, freedom from the uncertainty that had defined her entire life. But it was also frightening. "What about your wife?" Camille asked. Adam's expression darkened briefly. "Soraya and I have an understanding. We're married on paper, but we live separate lives. She has her interests, I have mine. She won't interfere." He leaned closer. "I'm not asking you to be a mistress, Camille. I'm asking you to be my partner. When the time is right, when I can arrange things properly, I want to marry you. Give you the life you deserve." The promise hung in the air between them, golden and dangerous. Camille wanted to believe it was real. Through her hidden cameras, Soraya watched the slow seduction unfold like a film she'd seen too many times before. But this version was different. Previous affairs had been quick, physical, almost businesslike in their brevity. This felt deeper, more threatening. She saw Adam's careful cultivation of Camille's trust, his gradual boundary pushing, his strategic vulnerability. But she also saw Camille's genuine responses, the way her face lit up when Adam entered the room, the unconscious way she touched her hair when he complimented her, the tears in her eyes when she thought no one was watching. This wasn't just another affair. Adam was investing in this woman, emotionally and financially. Soraya had found the receipts: jewelry purchases, apartment rentals, bank transfers. More concerning, she'd overheard phone calls where Adam discussed long-term arrangements and permanent solutions. The turning point came when Soraya discovered Adam had consulted a divorce lawyer, not to file immediately but to understand his options, to explore how to minimize financial damage while maximizing personal freedom. The consultation notes mentioned strategic timing and asset protection. Soraya realized she wasn't just watching another affair. She was watching the methodical dismantling of her life. Adam wasn't planning to keep Camille as a side arrangement. He was planning to replace Soraya entirely. The humiliation of divorce wasn't just personal. It would be social and financial suicide. In Dubai's expatriate elite circles, divorced women, especially those who'd been publicly betrayed, became invisible. The friends would disappear, the invitations would stop, the lifestyle would evaporate. Worse, Adam's prenuptial agreement signed when she was young and naive would leave her with minimal assets. Soraya had spent 15 years building her position, her reputation, her network. She'd endured Adam's previous betrayals because they were temporary, manageable, survivable. But this threat was existential. Standing in her walk-in closet, surrounded by designer clothes that represented her status, Soraya made a decision that would have seemed impossible months earlier. She would not be discarded. She would not become another casualty of Adam's selfishness. If he wanted to play games with lives, she would show him how the game was really played. The cameras captured everything. Adam's careful seduction, Camille's gradual surrender, the progression from professional conversations to intimate confessions to physical contact. Soraya watched it all with the detached fascination of a scientist observing specimens. She saw the moment Adam first touched Camille's hand during a late-night conversation about their childhoods. She watched Camille's surprise melt into acceptance, then warmth. She documented their first kiss 3 days later, tentative and sweet, happening in the recovery room while Adam's official medical care was supposedly ending. Most damning were the conversations about the future. Adam's promises to leave his marriage, to set Camille up independently, to eventually marry her. Camille's cautious hope, her growing dependence on Adam's vision of their life together. The way she began staying later, arriving earlier, blurring the lines between professional duty and personal attachment. Soraya collected it all. Video files, audio recordings, photographs of gifts Adam gave Camille, copies of bank transfers, documentation of the apartment Adam had secretly rented for their private meetings. She organized everything chronologically, creating a timeline that showed premeditation and calculated manipulation. But Soraya was strategic. She didn't just want evidence of the affair. She wanted evidence that could be manipulated to serve her purposes. She began editing the footage subtly, removing context that made Adam appear sympathetic, enhancing moments that made Camille seem calculating or aggressive. In one crucial edit, Soraya removed Adam's audio from a conversation where he pressured Camille to accept expensive gifts, leaving only Camille's eventual acceptance, making her appear greedy rather than reluctant. In another, she edited out Adam's promises about leaving his wife, keeping only Camille's responses about their future together, making her seem like a homewrecker rather than a victim of false promises. The most devastating edit involved Camille's access to Adam's medications. The cameras showed Camille administering prescribed doses exactly as directed, but Soraya edited the footage to suggest irregularities, to imply carelessness or possible tampering. These weren't random edits. They were surgical strikes designed to create a narrative where Camille appeared as the aggressor and Adam as the victim. Soraya was creating evidence for a story she hadn't yet decided to tell, building ammunition for a war she hadn't yet chosen to fight. Adam's health was improving rapidly, which meant Camille's legitimate reason for daily visits was ending. But neither Adam nor Camille was ready for their arrangement to conclude. They'd moved beyond patient-caregiver to something deeper, more dangerous. Adam solved the problem by claiming ongoing complications that required extended observation. He complained of persistent pain, of sleep disturbances, of anxiety about returning to normal activities. His physician, trusting Adam's self-reporting and impressed by Camille's professionalism, agreed to extend her private care arrangement. This gave Adam and Camille more time, more privacy, more opportunity to deepen their relationship. It also gave Soraya more material to work with. She watched them move from emotional intimacy to physical affair, documenting every encounter while simultaneously planning her response. Adam had no idea he was being recorded. Camille certainly had no idea. They believed they were conducting a secret romance, careful to avoid public attention while building their private world. Soraya let them feel safe. She maintained her usual social schedule, attended charity events, hosted dinner parties, played the role of the dedicated wife. She even expressed concern about Adam's slow recovery to friends, earning sympathy for her patience and devotion. Meanwhile, she was researching more than just divorce lawyers. She was learning about digital evidence, about medication interactions, about how accidents could be made to look like negligence. She was discovering how much damage could be done to a foreign worker's reputation with the right kind of allegations. Adam thought he was in control of his secret affair. Camille thought she was building toward a better future. Neither of them understood that they were actors in a play Soraya was writing, with an ending neither of them would survive intact. The breaking point came on a humid Thursday evening in June. Adam had told Soraya he was working late, reviewing construction contracts. Instead, he was at the apartment he'd rented for Camille, celebrating what he called their 6-month anniversary. 6 months since their relationship had begun. Through the surveillance she'd installed in that apartment, Soraya watched Adam present Camille with a diamond bracelet and a key to a larger apartment in Dubai Marina. She listened as he promised that within a year, he would file for divorce and they could be together openly. "I've already spoken to lawyers," Adam said, holding Camille close. "I'm going to offer Soraya a generous settlement, but I'm not going to let her keep me prisoner anymore. You've shown me what real love feels like." Camille cried, overwhelmed by happiness and relief. "Are you sure? I don't want to destroy your family." "You're not destroying anything," Adam replied. "You're saving me. We're going to have a real life together. No more hiding, no more sneaking around. I'm going to take care of you properly." That night, Soraya didn't sleep. She sat in her pristine living room, surrounded by the luxury that Adam's success had provided, and felt her world ending. Not slowly, as she'd endured with previous affairs, but completely and immediately. Adam wasn't just planning to leave her, he was planning to replace her entirely. The apartment, the jewelry, the promises weren't temporary gifts to a mistress. They were investments in his new life, a life where Soraya would be erased. The divorce would strip away her social position, her financial security, her identity. At 38, with no career of her own and a reputation as Adam's discarded wife, she would become invisible in the only world she'd known for 15 years. But Adam had made one crucial mistake. He'd underestimated how far Soraya would go to protect what was hers. Soraya's plan was elegant in its simplicity. Adam was still taking medication for post-surgical pain management, legitimate prescriptions for powerful painkillers that, in the wrong dosage, could be lethal. More importantly, Camille was the one administering these medications, documenting each dose, managing his entire pharmaceutical regimen. Over the next 2 weeks, Soraya carefully studied Adam's medication schedule. She knew exactly when Camille arrived, when she administered doses, when she left for breaks. The surveillance system that had revealed their affair would now provide the perfect cover for murder. Soraya's access to Adam's medications was unrestricted. As his wife, she occasionally helped organize his pills when Camille wasn't available. It would be simple to substitute higher-dose versions of his existing prescriptions, to create a lethal cocktail that would appear to be either accidental overdose or professional negligence. The beauty of the plan was that Camille would be the obvious suspect. She had access, opportunity, and, thanks to the edited surveillance footage, apparent motive. The videos would show a woman who had become emotionally involved with her patient, who had accepted expensive gifts, who might have been careless with medications due to her personal feelings. Soraya spent hours researching the precise dosages needed, the timing required, the symptoms Adam would experience. She consulted medical websites using public computers, bought pharmaceutical reference books with cash, even watched autopsy reports from similar cases. She was thorough, methodical, leaving nothing to chance. The edited surveillance footage would tell the story Soraya needed. Camille as an unprofessional nurse who had allowed personal feelings to compromise patient care. The financial records would show her accepting gifts and money from Adam. The timeline would suggest a woman desperate to secure her position who might have made mistakes with his medication. But Soraya wasn't just planning Adam's death, she was planning Camille's destruction. The murder would remove Adam before he could abandon her, but framing Camille would provide additional satisfaction. The woman who had stolen her husband's attention would lose everything: her freedom, her reputation, her future. On July 15th, Soraya made her final preparations. She replaced Adam's regular pain medication with a lethal combination designed to simulate accidental overdose. She prepared the edited video files for quick distribution to authorities. She crafted her story of the concerned wife who had suspected something was wrong with her husband's care. Everything was ready. Adam would die, Camille would be blamed, and Soraya would remain the grieving widow, beyond suspicion and finally, permanently, free. Adam died on a Tuesday morning at 6:47 a.m., 17 minutes before Camille was scheduled to arrive for her shift. He'd taken what he believed was his regular pain medication before going to sleep, unaware that Soraya had substituted lethal doses. The overdose was swift but not immediate. Adam experienced respiratory depression, cardiac arrhythmia, and organ failure over several hours. He died alone in the apartment he'd rented for his affair with Camille, the same apartment where Soraya's surveillance cameras recorded his final moments. Soraya's alibi was perfect. She'd been at a charity breakfast, surrounded by 50 witnesses, when Adam's body was discovered. She received the call about his death while giving a speech about supporting foreign workers in Dubai, a detail that would later seem grimly ironic. Camille found the body. She'd used her key to enter the apartment, expecting to begin her morning shift, and instead discovered Adam unresponsive in bed. Her screams brought neighbors, who called emergency services, who called police. The scene appeared straightforward. A man recovering from surgery had accidentally overdosed on pain medication. But the responding officers noted several concerning details. Why was Adam in this apartment instead of his family home? Why was his medication regimen so complex? Why did the foreign nurse seem so emotionally distraught over what should have been a professional-patient relationship? When police searched the apartment, they found evidence of the affair: gifts, personal items, romantic photographs. When they interviewed neighbors, they learned about the frequent visits, the extended stays, the intimate dinners. Camille's grief looked suspicious. Her access to Adam's medications looked damning. And when Soraya arrived at the scene, playing the shocked and betrayed wife who had just learned about her husband's secret apartment and affair, the narrative began to shift from accidental death to potential homicide. Dubai police approached the case with cultural sensitivity and administrative efficiency, two qualities that worked against Camille from the beginning. The victim was a prominent Emirati businessman. The suspect was a foreign domestic worker, and the evidence seemed straightforward. Detective Samir Al-Mahmoud, a 15-year veteran with the Dubai Police Criminal Investigation Department, took lead on the case. He was thorough, fair, and experienced with cases involving the expatriate community. But he was also aware of the political implications when foreign workers were accused of crimes against UAE nationals. The initial autopsy revealed lethal levels of fentanyl and oxycodone in Adam's system, doses far exceeding therapeutic amounts. The medical examiner noted that while accidental overdose was possible, the combination suggested either deliberate misadministration or intentional poisoning. Camille's emotional state during questioning raised immediate red flags. She was devastated, grieving openly, speaking about Adam with an intimacy that seemed inappropriate for a professional caregiver. When investigators asked about her relationship with Adam, Camille initially tried to maintain professional boundaries, claiming they were simply patient and nurse. But the apartment told a different story. Adam's gifts to Camille, their romantic photographs, evidence of intimate dinners and overnight stays. When confronted with this evidence, Camille broke down and admitted to the affair, claiming Adam had promised to marry her and that she loved him. To investigators, this confession provided clear motive. Camille was emotionally involved with Adam, financially dependent on him, and desperate to secure their relationship. Adam's death, whether intentional or through negligent care, would trigger life insurance payouts and eliminate the risk of him ending their affair. Soraya played her role perfectly. She appeared shocked by the revelation of Adam's infidelity, devastated by his death, but determined to see justice served. She provided investigators with background on Adam's medical needs, confirmed Camille's access to his medications, and expressed concern about the quality of care he'd been receiving. "I trusted her with my husband's life," Soraya told Detective Al-Mahmoud, tears streaming down her face. How could she betray that trust? How could she let her personal feelings interfere with his medical care? Soraya's masterpiece was the surveillance footage she discovered on Adam's personal security system. She claimed to have found the recordings while settling his estate, expressing shock at what they revealed about his final weeks. The edited videos told a damning story. They showed Camille accepting expensive gifts from Adam, spending time in his apartment outside of work hours, and handling his medications with apparent carelessness. Crucial context was missing: Adam's pursuit of Camille, his promises about their future, his pressuring her to accept gifts she initially refused. In the most damaging sequence, edited footage showed Camille administering Adam's evening medications on the night he died. Soraya had carefully removed audio and edited timestamps to make it appear that Camille had given Adam multiple doses of pain medication within a short period, violating basic medical protocols. The real footage would have shown Camille following Adam's written medication schedule exactly. But the edited version suggested negligence at best, intentional overdose at worst. Digital forensics experts hired by Adam's family confirmed the footage was authentic. They could verify the cameras hadn't been tampered with and the timestamps were consistent. What they couldn't detect was the sophisticated editing Soraya had performed on the files before submitting them as evidence. Camille's defense attorney requested independent analysis of the footage, but was told the original files had been corrupted during recovery. Only Soraya's discovered copies were available for examination. The financial records were equally damaging. Bank transfers from Adam to Camille, lease agreements for the apartment, jewelry purchases, all evidence of their affair, but presented without context of Adam's pursuit and promises. To investigators, it looked like Camille had been systematically extracting money and gifts from a vulnerable patient. Character witnesses for Camille painted her as professional and dedicated, but the prosecution argued that financial desperation had corrupted her judgment. They noted that Camille's family in the Philippines was struggling financially, that she was sending most of her salary home, that Adam's generous gifts represented more money than she could earn in years of legitimate nursing work. By the time Camille's trial began, public opinion had already turned against her. Local media portrayed the case as another example of foreign workers taking advantage of UAE hospitality, of professional trust being betrayed for personal gain. Camille's trial lasted 6 weeks and felt predetermined from the opening statements. The prosecution's case was methodical and seemingly conclusive. Motive, means, opportunity, and evidence of the affair that had corrupted Camille's professional judgment. The defense faced insurmountable challenges. Camille's admission to the affair undermined her credibility. The surveillance footage appeared to show negligent medication administration. The financial benefits she'd received from Adam suggested desperation for money. Camille's attorney argued that Adam had pursued her, that she'd tried to maintain professional boundaries, that she'd loved him genuinely rather than calculating. But without Adam alive to confirm her version of events, and with Soraya's edited evidence painting a different picture, the defense struggled to create reasonable doubt. The prosecution's closing argument was devastating. Camille Andrea came to Dubai seeking opportunity, but she chose the darkest possible path to achieve her goals. She betrayed professional ethics, corrupted the patient-caregiver relationship, and ultimately caused the death of a man who trusted her with his life. Whether through negligence or intention, she is responsible for Adam Al-Thani's death. Camille was convicted of involuntary manslaughter, medical malpractice, and fraud. She was sentenced to 15 years in Dubai Central Prison, with deportation to the Philippines upon completion of her sentence. During sentencing, she maintained her innocence while expressing genuine grief for Adam's death. "I loved him," she said through tears. "I would never have hurt him. Someone has made a terrible mistake." 2 years later, a routine audit of Adam's estate uncovered financial irregularities that prompted a deeper investigation. Warren Harris, a private investigator hired by Camille's devastated family, used advanced digital forensics to discover evidence of the edited surveillance footage. A whistleblower from the security company revealed that Soraya had requested specific editing services. When the truth emerged, it was too late to undo the damage. Camille had already served 2 years of her sentence. Her nursing license was permanently revoked. Her family in the Philippines had been destroyed by the scandal. Jose's health deteriorated from stress, Luz lost her laundry business, and Mika was forced to drop out of university. Soraya faced charges for murder, evidence tampering, and perjury. But by then, she had liquidated Adam's assets and disappeared, likely to a country without extradition treaties with the UAE. Camille was eventually released and deported, but she returned to the Philippines a broken woman. The nurse who had come to Dubai seeking to heal others had become another casualty of power, privilege, and the dangerous intersection of desperation and desire. In the end, 3 lives were destroyed. Adam's ended by his wife's jealousy, Camille's ruined by someone else's crime, and Soraya's consumed by the very hatred that had driven her to murder.